my friend here, Rick Ehrenberg from Marlborough, New York.
That's Marlborough to you.
Okay, so we're starting a little chat today with my good friend Rick Ehrenberg, who we became fast friends about 15 years ago. I was asked to pick Rick up at the airport in Tullamarine, Melbourne, and because Rick had been invited to a talk at the Mopars on the Murray. And we became fast friends. We say laughingly now we're brothers from another mother.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Similar sense of humour, but we have a bit of fun. And we've done many trips and we've done lots of projects in America. Rick and I have travelled across America a couple of times in old cars, and Rick's been a big help with my cars here as well as parts, and we've done a little bit with his cars, and it's been a lot of fun. But today is more about having a chat to Rick about the history of the green brick and the racing in the one lap of America, which a lot of people followed in the earlier Mopar Action magazines. Now, if you're not familiar, Rick was a tech writer for Mopar Action for
35 years.
35 years,
Yeah.
So a long time. So he's considered the guru of Mopar technical questions, and he'll give you an answer whether it's right or wrong. He'll give it to you anyway.
Whether you like it or not.
Whether you want to hear it or not.
Exactly. Yeah, if you screwed something up, I'm going to tell you right to your face. I'm well known for not holding anything back.
That's
anything,
right, yeah.
Anything I would say behind your back, I'll also say right to your face.
That's true.
No problem.
So I often bounce off Rick. He's helped me with all my cars since I've met Rick in one way or another, whether it's advice, sometimes wanted and not wanted, but nevertheless, always been a help to me, a tremendous help actually over the years. So today I've talked about doing for a long time, and I know a lot of my friends have been asking if we're going to have a chat about this green brick. And in the magazine they started, how long ago was the One Lap of America? When did that start?
First time I ran the One Lap of America was 1989.
Okay.
That was not in the green book. I'll explain that when we get to that.
Okay, so the conversation is going to start from right in the early days when this One Lap of America came out.
May even start before that.
Okay, might even start before that. And the magazine, basically, Rick not only lived it, but then he wrote about it and put it through the magazine. And it went for how many years from start to finish did you race?
The one lap?
Yeah.
Well, let's see, 89, 99, probably 12 or 13 times I ran the one lap.
When you hear about how difficult one lap is, like just as far as a physical effort, it's 12 years is a lot. I can tell you, that's a lot of hard work. So anyway, have a listen to what Rick's got to say, but your foot's wobbling the camera.
Oh, sorry. I do have size 13 feet.
You got to put them on your thing there, and I'll take mine off as well.
Brian is his usual telling people what to do, and we're used to that, and it's fine.
Yeah.
We don't always take his advice, just like he doesn't always take mine.
Yeah.
But I would like to think, tell me if I'm right or wrong, since you've met me, I've gotten you more interested in building more well-rounded cars that not only go, they stop, they handle.
I'd agree. We come from two different angles as far as how we set our cars up, but I've taken bits from Rick. I don't think he's taken much from me, but I have taken parts from Rick on his ethics on how a car should drive, and I have introduced that in many of my cars since. So it's definitely been a help. I'm a bit stubborn, and I like my cars a bit differently set up to what Rick does, but it's nice to know both ends of the spectrum, which I am aware of now, which I wasn't before. So, it's any friendships. You got to take each other's edges off. I don't think I've taken edges off you at all.
Probably not.
I think your edges.
I think that's almost impossible. It's not going to be till they nail the coffin shut that the edges are going to be taken off.
I think your edges are just as prickly as always.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'll give you a little history of how I got started in this. A little bit of Mopar history. This could obviously go on for days, but I'll just boil it down. My father, when I was growing up, had always had Buicks, and the company he worked for had a deal with General Motors where he could get a deal on a new Buick every year. So in 1951, he got some Buick, I don't remember what it's called, Century maybe, and it was some straight 8 no gear transmission called Dynaflow. I mean, it was beyond pig. So he had a friend who was a General Motors test driver at the proving grounds, and he heard through the grapevine that the 1957 Chrysler products were going to be really something else. So in the summer of 1956, my father went to a Chrysler dealer. I was there with my mother, and he ordered a 57 Chrysler New Yorker 392 Hemi. It came in, we had one of the first cars. It was a plain Jane four-door pillared sedan, but the styling was still so alien to everything else. It was just stunning.
57 was an amazing car.
Absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
And my mother was the driver in the family, not my father. My father, well, I'll give you one quick scenario. My father was trying to change a light bulb in a ceiling fixture. My mother would yell at him, "Irving, you can't even change a light bulb." And his retort would always be the same. "That's right, Louise, but I make enough money to pay somebody to do it for me." So anyway, my mother got in this 57 Chrysler. She picked me up at elementary school. There was a crowds around it. It was like some Buck Rogers spaceship showed up there. And my mother drove this car, and it was like you just turned her loose, like in some supercar today. So that's what got me into Mopars. So my first new car was a 1960 Valiant, used, 2 years old, slant 6.3 on the floor. And I had a couple of friends one had a Ford, one had a Corvair, and the Valiant cleaned both their clocks, and it absolutely just ran circles around them when it came to handling. So that kind of got me interested in handling. So in the fall of '64, I ordered a new Valiant four-door sedan, 273 4-barrel 4-speed, factory tack, factory disc brakes, fast ratio manual steering, Goodyear Blue Streak tires, and that really got me into handling. So I ran it at it was actually an SCCA, I don't remember what class it was called, but it was at Lime Rock Park in Connecticut, a regular road course, and they said, "You need a roll cage," and I brought up the NASCAR documents from 1960 compact car races that proved the unibody was so stiff that it didn't require a roll cage. They let me run, but there were no other cars in the class. No Mustangs had showed up. So I had to run against Corvettes, Jaguars, etc. And there were about 15 cars in the class, and I finished third overall. My first time in a road course. And I guess there's something to this.
Yeah.
So I continued to improve on the technology. Then I bought a used...
But wait a minute, before you got that far, you told me that you did quite a bit of street racing in that 273 4-speed.
Oh, absolutely. I paid for the car street racing, but that was drag racing. That was straight line.
Yeah.
Even so, just driving around daily on exit ramps, entrance ramps, side streets, it was always feel the lateral G's. I always liked lateral G forces sideways. I just liked that.
Yeah.
So, and of course, acceleration I liked also.
Yeah.
And braking was always very, very important to me.
Yeah.
I mean, at the time I had the Valiant I put some kind of premium pads in the front. I don't remember. Ferroto might have been the brand.
But that'd also be very early disc brake, wouldn't it?
It was the 4-piston Kelsey Hayes.
Yeah. So that wasn't like common back in them days, though, 64, was it?
60,
not an A body.
No. In fact, I believe 65 was the first year that they offered disc brakes on an A. Yeah, I put full metallic rear drum shoes on. A brand called Velvet Touch. They're still in business, SK Wellman. Problem was they were bonded to the shoes and they would delaminate. And that was
the shoe would come off, yeah.
But anyway, so the real shortcoming with the first or second generation A body was the engine compartment was narrow and there was no room for a decent exhaust system. So, make a long story short, the fall of...
That's impossible.
Yeah. Fall of 60... Well, yeah, maybe. You're basically right. People have made headers for that car.
Yeah.
But the fall of 67...
No, I'm talking about you making the story short.
Oh, that is impossible. That's definitely true. So the fall of 67, I was street racing, and a guy showed up in a new 68 Cuda 340S fastback. And it was his family car. It cost, wife and kids were going to be in it. And he cleaned the clocks of my 273 4-barrel. And I was like, look at the engine. It just looks just like the 273. So that was a Friday night. Saturday morning, I was at the dealership where the parts department was open till noon, and I ordered the short block, the cylinder heads, the intake manifold, etc. And about 2 weeks later, I had a 340 in my 65 Valiant.
Wow.
Of course, like the 340 exhaust manifolds wouldn't clear in that car. So I spent like 2 days in my parents, I lived in a high-rise apartment with a Black & Decker quarter-inch electric drill and a grinding wheel, and I poured it out the exhaust manifolds to mate to the 340 heads.
Right, yep.
And I kept the stock 273 single exhaust, which was probably the best factory single exhaust ever made. And I cleaned everybody's clocks with the car.
In 1987, Rick became the tech editor for High Performance Mopar magazine. 2 or 3 years later, the editor, Cliff Gromer, moved to the then new Mopar Action. After a few issues hanging back with High Performance Mopar and not liking the new High Performance Mopar editor, the Dream Team were reunited at Mopar Action, probably in 1990 or so.
So then Cliff, had paid some attention to the one lap because it had been written up.
So how long had that been going for?
How long had they been running it?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. What happened was the Cannonball run, which was the predecessor to the one lap, basically was just impossible to run during the fuel crisis.
But it was also a totally different setup because Cannonball was just one trip across America, basically.
Just a race from the Red Bull garage in Midtown Manhattan to the, what's the name of the restaurant? It was on the tip of my tongue, but somewhere in L.A. area.
Yeah. So, but this other one was a total different script.
Total different. I'll describe that in a minute, but let me just put in one little aside. When I ran the Duster, the clapped out 74 Duster, the magazine had it shipped to Long Beach. And the truck driver called me up, where should I put it when I get there? I said, just park it on the street. So I parked it on the street right across from, Queen Mary?
Oh, yeah, the Queen Mary.
Right there. It's filthy dirty, and a guy pulls up, I don't remember what he pulled up in, and he gets out and starts talking to me about the car. And I'm talking to him for probably a good 45 minutes. Regular guy, like we're talking now.
Yeah.
And I noticed that across the street, it was a wide street, there's a bunch of people watching. I'm like, that's strange, right? So, he says, I got to go, and he gets in his car and drives away. Now, all of a sudden, a horde of people come across the street. How do you know Jay Leno? I said, Who's Jay Leno? I never watched TV in my life. So they explained to me Jay Leno is a famous Saturday night TV host or something.
You repair TVs for a living, but you never watch TV.
Never watched. Never watched.
Still doesn't watch it.
That's right. Yeah. So that was pretty interesting. And the other thing that happened on that trip, the Duster had been sitting there for 2 weeks by the time I got there, and it was so filthy. So I drive to a car wash.
That's an industrial area down there with the Queen Marys.
It was just so filthy. It was
a lot of shipping containers
and also
trucks.
Driving cross country on the open transporter. Right. So I take it into this fancy car wash. No touch, brushless, whatever. And it comes out just as filthy as it went in. And I complained. So they ran it through a second time. And it's still filthy. So now they got 3 or 4 guys with mops and all kinds of.
So was it diesel all over it from the trucks going around it?
Who knows? But it was black. So they finally got it clean for $4 or whatever it was back then. And I gave the guys a quarter tip, of course.
I'm glad they never see you again.
No, for sure. Yeah, they were just as happy to see me go down the road.
So this is a whole new race you hadn't done before. No, this is the second time you've done it.
No, this was the Duster. It was back to the Duster. The Valiant, I had never run that before in the
but the Duster you already raced prior to that, you said?
The Duster ran once.
Right, and this was a new one on the other side of the country.
Well, what happened was, this is so long ago, it's getting kind of foggy, but I ran a couple of the early races, at least one, maybe 2, in Dave Zalkowski, the Chrysler engineer. He had an Omni with a 300 horsepower, 2.2 non-cross flow head, regular stock 2.2 head, and the car probably was 1,900 pounds. We ran that at least once, and that kicked some serious butt.
Wow.
In fact, Brock Yates, at the halfway point, that one started on the West Coast also, as I recall. The halfway point, we were at Newark Airport. and we overhear Brock Yates on the phone. He's giving some race results to some newspaper reporter. And I think we were not only winning the class, but we were in second place overall. And Brock Yates tells the reporters, yes, we have a Shelby in second place. And we went nuts because it was a regular cheap Dodge on. And Shelby was, don't get me wrong, I had nothing against him. I knew him pretty well. But he was just a figurehead when it came to engineering.
But was there a Shelby Omni at the time?
There was a Shelby Omni. But
is that what he was referring to? Or do you think it was a Ford? Oh, right.
Well, he didn't care. He just wanted to think, Shelby.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was a Shelby Dodge, but it wasn't even a Shelby Dodge.
Yeah.
In fact, it had been weld together out of two wrecks. His brother or brother-in-law wrecked one Omni, and his sister wrecked another Omni. We cut them both down the middle and welded them together. And we even painted it that way in like colored stripes, and we referred to it as the billboard, I think.
Oh, right.
So, yeah.
But anyway, getting back to the Duster, so it's just had a wash, it's nice and clean,
Yep.
And now you're looking to this new race for the
By
Duster.
the way, that first year, 1989, the One Lap of America was 11,500 miles.
Wow.
It was crazy.
That is a long way.
Truly a one lap of the
That is a
entire
long
country.
way.
It was nuts.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot. Some things that really am grateful for. There was a famous dirt oval in downtown Los Angeles, and I got to drive that.
Wow.
There was another event. This is where I really started to get into it with Brock Yates. I mean, we butted heads, from day one, because everybody else is showing up in the Ferraris and the
So
BMW.
wait a minute, Brock Yates ran he was running the race.
He was running the one.
Oh, I see.
Right. He's a famous TV commentator and author. He wrote for Car and Driver.
I see.
He's the one who almost certainly pushed them to run the One Lap of
Right,
America.
okay, yeah.
So the first actual event after we left Long Beach was in Northern California, up in the Napa area, and that's not Napa Auto Parts, it's Napa Valley Wineries. There was a road course there. I can't remember the name of it. I believe it still exists, but the event was a regularity run, which I'd never even heard of. We read the instructions, and it says, here's what you do. You have to make one lap of the track, and at any given second going around the track like a road rally, you have to have averaged between 50 and 65 miles an hour. So if you do the math, you've gone X number of feet. At halfway between 50 and 65, you should show up at this point, click the stopwatch. You got to be within this window. Okay. They record all of your times at each of these checkpoints around the track. Now, exactly 1 hour later, you run it again and you attempt to duplicate your exact times. And Brock Yates said, you can't use your windshield wipers, because guys were counting the sweeps in a windshield wiper and saying, okay, it's at 47 wipes at this point. Oh, I'm only at 45. I better slow down. So that was the rule. But I read every word of the rules. And of course, this is before, cell phones, there were laptops, but nobody had one. And I don't know how much use it would have been. So what I did, and this was genius. I had a micro cassette recorder, and the first lap, as the green flag dropped, I pushed record, and I pushed accelerating now to 65 miles an hour, just turning left to turn one. I recorded all the checkpoints, the geographical oddities as you go around the track. And then that's when I ran it an hour later, I just pushed play.
How big was the window?
You had to average between 50 and 65 at every checkpoint.
Right.
And you had to duplicate it. In other words, if you went 50, average 52 to the first checkpoint in the first lap, the second lap you had to be there at the exact same time.
Right.
That was the trick.
Yeah, right.
It wasn't running in the window. That wasn't so difficult.
Right.
In other words, a good handling car, I could have just set the car on 63 and basically driven the whole track. Wouldn't have been a problem.
Yeah.
So Yates gave us a whole bunch of crap. Not about the cassette recording. Never found out about that. And there was nothing in the rules about that. But there was some scorekeeping errors where he had us 30 seconds late at one checkpoint, and then the next checkpoint we're back to being on time, and it's like a tenth of a mile down the road. How can that be?
Yeah.
And we appealed, and what I finally said, okay, yeah, you won, or whatever it was.